Jefferson County Court at Law number 2 is back in session. The court is in session in 2 cases. First case is cause number M320372 and cause number M327718. Both cases are filed in the state of Texas versus Daniel Joseph Briggs. Mr. Briggs, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Briggs, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Sir.
Mr. Briggs, you may put your hand down. Mr. Briggs, is your full name Daniel Joseph Briggs?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Briggs, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Mr. Briggs, you're here? Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking. Mr. Briggs, your attorney in this case is Attorney Nathan Reynolds. Attorney Reynolds, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Judge.
And the state district attorney, assistant district attorney is Attorney Lamar Johnson. Again, Attorney Johnson, how are you doing?
I'm blessed, thank you.
And Mr. Reynolds, do you waive a record in Mr. Briggs' cases?
So wait, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Briggs, I have before me an information that was filed by the Jefferson County District Attorney's Office. In this information, it alleges that on or about September 2nd of 2018, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of assault family violence. Mr. Briggs, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Briggs, to this charge, how do you plead guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Now, Mr. Briggs, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading guilty because you're guilty?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Briggs, also in cause number 320372, I have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishment. It is also labeled as State's Exhibit number 1. Mr. Briggs, I'm going to show you this document. Mr. Briggs, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of this same document, Mr. Briggs, there are a set of initials, DB, that are on a line that's next to a box that's checked guilty. Mr. Briggs, did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On the next page of the same document, there is a signature above the line that is titled Defendant. Mr. Briggs, is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Briggs, I also have another document. This document is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal. Mr. Briggs, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that is titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
At the top of this document, Mr. Briggs, there are 2 boxes that are checked. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargaining case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a discovery certification?
Yeah.
Mr. Briggs, I also have a document before me that is titled Discovery Certification. Mr. Briggs, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Briggs, before you sign and initial all of these documents that I have just showed you, did your attorney, Mr. Reynolds, go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir. I did.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir. I did.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Mhm.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit number 1. State, you like to offer State's Exhibit number 1's evidence?
Yes, Your Honor. State offer state one.
Any objections, Mr. Reynolds?
There's no objection to one, Judge.
No objections. State's Exhibit number 1 will be admitted. Mr. Reynolds, you have advised and counseled Mr. Briggs. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
Not to my knowledge, Judge.
Mr. Briggs, your attorney, Mr. Reynolds, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir, I am.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir, he has.
Mr. Briggs, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
Your Honor, in exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty in this case, the state is recommending confinement in the Jefferson County Jail for a period of 180 days, Your Honor. We're asking that the defendant be given credit for the 180 days he has already spent in jail, making this a time served plea agreement. We're asking that the court use that time served to tax and retire the court costs. And lastly, Your Honor, this case is to run concurrent with cause number 32778.
32778. And Mr. Reynolds, is that the offer?
Yes, credit for time.
Okay. Okay, now, Mr. Briggs, the state is offering that you serve 180 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail because you have already served 180 days in the Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you will be given credit for the time that you have already served. The court cost in this case is $397, but you will not have to pay the court cost of $397 because the time that you have spent in jail has already paid it off. This case will also run concurrent with cause number 327718. Mr. Briggs, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Briggs, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the court. Mr. Briggs, we will move on to your next case. And your next case is cause number M327718. And in this case, Mr. Briggs, I have before me a document that is titled Information. And in this information, it alleges that on or about September 3rd of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class A misdemeanor offense of interference with emergency telephone call. Mr. Briggs, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir, I do.
And to discharge, Mr. Briggs, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Now, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir, I am.
And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes, sir, I am. Because I'm guilty.
Mr. Briggs, I also have before me a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Mr. Briggs, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir, I do.
And on page 2 of this same document, there's a set of initials, DB, on a line next to a box that says check guilty. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir, I did.
On page 3 of this same document, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Mr. Briggs, is this your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document that is titled Trial Court Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature above the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir, it is.
There are 2 boxes that's checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you're waiving your right to an appeal, which means you're giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir. I do.
And I also have before me a document that is titled Discovery Certification. Mr. Briggs, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir. It is.
Now, Mr. Briggs, before you signed and initialed all of these documents that I've just showed you, did your attorney, Mr. Reynolds, go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir, he did.
And did you read and understand everything that Mr. Reynolds went over?
Yes, I did.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Reynolds, you've advised, Mr. Briggs, are you a citizen of the United States?
Yes, sir, I am.
And Mr. Reynolds, you've advised and counseled Mr. Briggs in this case as well. Is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial?
None to my knowledge.
And Mr. Briggs, your attorney, Mr. Reynolds, has advised and counseled you in this case. Are you satisfied with his representation?
Yes, sir, I am.
Has he provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir, he has.
Mr. Briggs, I will accept your plea of guilty. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor. I don't believe, I want to make sure before we get to the plea of the bargain, I don't believe we offer states one in evidence, Your Honor, or ask that they be offered into evidence.
Okay, any objections?
No objection to state one.
Okay, no objections. States exhibit number 1 will be admitted.
But yes, we do have a plea bargaining agreement, Your Honor.
And what is your agreement?
It's in exchange for the defendant's plea of guilty in this case. The state is recommending confinement in the Jefferson County Jail for a period of 180 days, Your Honor. We're asking that the defendant be given credit for the 180 days he has already spent in jail. Making this a time served plea agreement, Your Honor. We're asking that the court use that time served to tax and retire the court costs. And lastly, Your Honor, this case will run concurrent with cause number 320372.
Could you repeat that number?
Yes, sir. It is 320372.
320372. Okay. Mr. Briggs, the state is offering that you serve 180 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not be required to serve 180 days in the Jefferson County Jail because you have already served 180 days in the Jefferson County Jail. Therefore, you will be given credit for the time that you have already served. The court cost in this case is $352, but you will not be required to pay the court costs in this case because the time that you have spent in jail has already paid it off. Therefore, the court costs will be taxed and retired. This case will run concurrent with cause number 320372. Mr. Briggs, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir, I do.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir, I do.
Mr. Briggs, I'll follow the plea bargaining agreement that you have entered into with the state. Now, Mr. Briggs, this will conclude your cases. You're gonna stand on the X next to your attorney, follow the directions of our clerk.
Actually, I've got a seat while I type it.
Okay, just have a seat, and then when she finished typing up the judgment, she's gonna ask you to come back up to the window. You're gonna follow her instructions, and once you finish following her instructions, you'll be free to go, and you have a blessed day. And Mr. Reynolds, you'll be free to go as well. Does Mr. Reynolds not have to sign anything, right? Well, just hold it, yeah.
I don't think so, because it's a jail time plea, but this is my first time typing one on this new
Okay.
program.
Well, just hold up and we'll see. But once you finish doing what you're required to do, you're free to go, and you have a blessed day.
All right, thank you, Judge.
And you have a blessed day as well.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. Okay. And this will conclude the calling of the court's trial docket on today's date of March 6, 2023, in County Court at Law number 2, Judge Terrence L. Holmes presiding.